Hi, I'm Lisa Gray, the executive producer of Dragon Eagle TV. Welcome to the second episode of the You Are Hired program. This program was created by Dragon Eagle TV and a group of community leaders to help aspirant youth launch and advance their careers. The Your Hired program also serves to help companies identify and recruit talent for their current and future business needs. This episode, Learn from the Best. You will have the opportunity to listen successful leaders in corporations and entrepreneurs on their experience and advice for careers and jobs. Without further ado, let me introduce to you our moderator, respected corporate and community leader, Dr. Jamie Su. Dr. Su, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Lisa. It's so delightful to be able to moderate such a distinguished leaders group. I had a privilege of meeting them somewhere either in the past or recently. There's something very interesting. I will introduce them and tell you the interesting connection I had with them. The first one is Dr. Betty Chu. She's the Senior Vice President of Henry Ford Hospital Health Systems and in charge of the clinical and also quality programs. I had a privilege of working with her when I was on the Henry Ford Quality Board. So we tend to work together for quite a while. I give them a chance to introduce themselves, but right now I just mention their names. Second person is Lin Long He. Lin Long is kind of interesting. We had very interesting background, although she's the leadership advisor within Rocket Central, but her background is civil engineering. My background is civil engineering. So it's kind of interesting. We have interesting links, but she will tell you some of the interesting stories she had, how she become leaders in the program, how she's moved from different responsibilities. Okay, so that's Lin Long He. Third person is Radha Krishnan. Radha Krishnan is the entrepreneur. We had a privilege of knowing each other, at least by name, when he was working on GM EV1. That's the time when I was also responsible for GM's EV1. So these three distinguished leaders, I had a privilege of knowing them, and also I know that you will be delighted to hear the comments, the insight on how to become the best leaders and also how to get the best jobs for the youth and how to advance your career in a big company. Okay, so with that, I'm going to first ask the three panelists to briefly introduce themselves, to tell us their career journey and also any highlights in there. Okay. First, let's get started with Betty Chu, Senior Vice President of Henry Ford Health System. Betty?
Thank you so much, Jamie, and thanks so much for inviting me to join in this great discussion today with my distinguished colleagues. And currently, as Jamie mentioned, I'm the Senior Vice President. I'm the Associate Chief Clinical Officer and Chief Quality Officer for Henry Ford Health. Henry Ford Health is about a $7 billion company that's located in southeastern Michigan. We have a network of acute care hospitals and about 250 ambulatory facilities and multiple joint ventures with other organizations, including an innovation institute. And we also have a global health presence with hospitals in India and Saudi Arabia. And so we're a pretty large enterprise. My responsibility is over clinical services for the enterprise and also leading quality and safety. And so I had the privilege of leading the COVID response for our health system 2020 when the pandemic started. And my background is I'm an OBGYN. I trained as an obstetrician gynecologist and still see some patients from time to time. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you. I know that you have a lot of story to tell us later on, but thank you for taking your time from your busy schedule. Now let's hear a little bit about from Lin Long. Lin Long He, tell us about you and your career.
Yeah, thank you, Jamie. Thank you for having me here. I'm currently the Chief Leadership Advisor at the Rock Central. I mean, you previously possibly know we call the Quicken Loans, but it really now in enterprise, we have a company besides mortgage. We have a Rock Auto, Rock Mortgage, Rock Loans, Rock Homes. I mean, enterprise company here now. Responsible overall for the leadership, vision, and the development, especially for executive leaders. And my career here, I was immigrant student back to many years ago, and I was engineer. And I run the CIO for Quick Loans for 10 years. After that, I co-founded a Rock Central company as the president for 2 years. Now I'm currently the chief leadership advisor.
Thank you. You also have an interesting story about the whole company and your personal transformation during the process. Okay, yeah. Okay, next we have Radha Krishna introduce himself and his company.
So thank you. My name is Radha Krishnan. I'm president and CEO of Detroit Engineered Products. We are based in Troy, Michigan, but we're a global company. My background is mechanical engineering, and I did an undergrad in Indian Institute of Technology in India way back, and got a master's in mechanical engineering in the US in the late 80s. And I've been in the automotive industry since then. I used to work for General Motors, as what Jamie mentioned, in the Electric Vehicle 1, EV1 program for GM. And after that, in 1998, founded Detroit Engineered Products. We are an engineering software and engineering services company, servicing predominantly automotive industry and aerospace and heavy equipment industry. And besides the US, we have customers in China, India, Japan, Korea, and in Europe. So that is my background. So back to you, Jamie. Yeah.
Thank you. If you don't mind, the way I like to do it is maybe ask all three of you some general questions. You can comment on each one. And also I like to ask some very specific questions related to you, if you don't mind. So I try to mix it up because everybody's experience, leadership experience are very unique, but also you have some general advice, experience to share with people, okay? Betty, let me ask you first, general questions and then specific questions, okay? A general question is that, do you think people should focus on professional skills or the broader operational skills in a hospital environment?
I don't want to punt and say you have to know both, but if you're speaking of leadership and executive level skills and management skills or operational skills, they're both critically important. I think different times in your careers, you will probably lean more heavily on operational and management skills. So when I started in the company as a chief medical officer, it was much more tactical and operational and execution of specific projects. As I've moved up in the organization, I spend more of my time in strategy. And so as a result of that, I would say an influence, right? So within an organization of our size, as well as the size of Radha and Linglong, a lot of our time is spent influencing activities and behavior and creating structure for improvement. So I think you do have to know both. I would say when I say for more entry-level folks, I would say you have to be excellent at operational execution, because that's really how you make a name for yourself.
Thank you so much, because I know that a lot of aspiring youth want to get into the medical field, but they probably need to learn the operational and other leadership skills too, in addition to the medical knowledge and the skills. Okay.
Yeah, so
Now,
if you're going to do administration, it does help, yes.
Okay. Now I will ask you a question. You can decline to answer. Okay, Betty? Okay. You have moved from a very senior level from Berman Hospital to Henry Ford. That must be a risk for you to take. What's the process and why did you decide to do that? Okay, you can say if it's a company specific, you don't want to answer it, that's fine too.
You know, I think like most individuals, there's a couple things. You look at your own personal journey and where you want to be in 5 to 10 years, and then decide whether the company that you're in allows you those opportunities. So that's, of course, one. I think the second, clearly for most people, is cultural fit. You know, finding an organization that aligns with your morals and values and your cultural fit. And again, I haven't been at Beaumont in 8 years, so I can't really speak to the culture there now. But at the time, it did not have the level of diversity that I was looking for in the management team. And that was really important to me because in our business, we serve the population, and the population is very diverse. So I don't think for me, it was critically important to be in a company that met not only my personal goals, but also met the environmental needs that I had for serving the community.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Okay. Now you mentioned culture. I'm going to ask Lin Long about something related to culture. You have somehow transformed the quick loans, Rocket Mortgage, Rocket Centers. You have transformed the company numerous times, and you've moved from CIOs to COOs to a founder of a new company to become senior advisors to all the leadership teams. That must be quite a lot of changes. Do you see the cultural things play in your transformation of the company and also yourself? Ding Long?
Absolutely. Just like I already mentioned, culture is key. I mean, for any organization. I mean, we talk about, I mean, sometimes people say they do not have a culture in the company. If they say they do not have a culture, this means there's one is a bad one. People just didn't realize. I think in any organization, how to make a culture strong, to transfer, to influence people, to connect people together, that's the key, especially for sometimes in our company, our enterprise, we are not more than just one quick loans company. We have so many company. How has a company perform, execute, take care of the community in the same level, same mission? That is culture, because we have to connect them together. So it is interesting. Sometimes people when you run organization, people didn't realize how culture will play big critical part in any successful of the organization. And I'm not sure your question specifically by myself. Like I said, I come from different background, from different country to here. Also, even just from culture from China and the culture from America is a huge gap. It's different. It's totally different. But you have to adapt, to have to be open, understand it, to be learning, and to how to navigate, to leverage strength is also important, and be human too. Sometimes we are weak for certain area. I remember I just joined when people talk about sports all the time. Back to many years ago, I was a young girl. I have zero clue. People talking about like the football. I don't even play. I mean, but it's okay, because how to be adapted, to be open for that. I do think a culture from organization culture is important, and also just from people personal, how to understand the culture, to transfer culture as your advantage versus the disadvantage.
You have moved from a CIO position to COO. What's the major difference between CIO responsibility and the COO responsibility?
It's interesting because when I was a CIO for Quick Loans for 10 years, because prior to that, I was kind of really did pretty much every single role in the technology. I was engineer, programmer, I was DBA, as was, I do everything. But when you transfer CIO position, you are more your senior leader, executive leader in the table, in the C level, but you're still focused on the technology. You still have one area. You're responsible for oversee your strategy for the entire company, but for technology, how to technology impact drive the business. So while my partner and I, we co-founded the Rock Central at that time as a professional service company, I was, also handled the CEO and the president role, but that's different. Yeah, not just for, because under the company, we have marketing, we have everything else, like you guys understand, but really you understand how to play. It's still leadership, it's still actual leadership. Even CIO, when I was CIO, I'm not coding myself anymore. But when you are CEO and the president, you really have to make every single part working together. The thing is, you are not leverage your strengths anymore. When I was a CIO, I can still challenge by people because I was come from that same role. So people cannot just, so I can challenge, ask really challenging question. But when I was CEO and the president, I have to leverage other people's. I have to leverage other people's skill to make sure it's able to working together.
So one is more technology focused, the other one is more people focused, huh? You're saying?
As a CIO, still people focus there for that level. I think that, but
Okay, both.
you have the domain knowledge, just so you have a much
Okay.
more domain knowledge. You can leverage that when you use it. But as executive leadership, I mean, I think today's world, I mean, people skill is so
Okay.
important everywhere.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Just to chime in, just to let you know, Lin Long, why did I move away from civil engineering? After I worked for 3 years, I find out I was afraid of height. So I have to quit civil engineering. It's not planning, whatever. Sometimes circumstances will force you to change. Okay.
Jamie, you,
Yeah.
you and I both. I'm still afraid of heights. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Radha, you're interesting. You quit I call it more safe, stable jobs and decide to start your own company. That must be a huge risk taking. Would you tell us that what prompts you to jump into a high risk area, starting your own company?
So that's a great question. GM, as most of us know, a lot of folks would love to work for GM. It's a good, interesting place to work at. But I was very much interested in addressing what are some of the challenges that, in general, mechanical engineering and automotive product development was seen as a need. That need at the time was how to reduce the typical vehicle development time. To put together a car, back then in the early 90s, you're talking about 7-8 years of development time. So what could be, is there an interesting way to come up with a software and a process which can greatly reduce that time? So that is where some good ideas for morphing technology, etc., came about as the genesis of me wanting to do something on my own. So with that as a starting point, I decided, okay, seems like a good idea. So might as well realize it as an opportunity by going on your own, by starting a company on your own. So that's how the company was founded.
Many entrepreneurs need to have an angel investor to back them up. Did you have one, like a very rich dad back you up, say, go for it? Here's $50 billion for you.
I wish I had. I'm just kidding. In my case, it was largely self-funded. But the self-funding started by we doing the initial part of the company development by doing consulting services. So that brings money into the company, and that money is reinvested into technology development, the software development. So in that respect, it was largely a self-funded operation. But my suggestion to all the young folks who come into the workforce would be, don't be shy to seek out for angel investors or outside funding. If you have a good idea, time is of the essence. You want to bring the product, your product or your idea to the market as soon as possible. All right. So for that, and outside investment is always a very good idea.
I'm going to ask the same question to all three of you. Our audience is going to consist of a lot of APA folks, youth, and typically, at least in the old days, APAs are typically shy and very humble. They don't brag about themselves. But I'd like the three of you to brag about yourself. What's your strongest point to make you so successful? Okay, brag about yourself. Any particular skills or any particular characteristics or traits make you so successful? Betty.
I think I have worked very hard on simplifying complexity when I communicate. And so I think I started early on speaking to the legislature around health policy. So I did a lot of work in health policy, and you kind of realize when you're talking to politicians, you have to have a very clear and succinct platform. Usually it's 2 or 3 talking points. and you need to really refine your message. So, and you need to hone in immediately on what it is that you want to ask for. So I would say that that is something that I've worked hard on, and I think it's served me well.
So communication skills and prepare for the fight, really, to do that. Okay. Now, again, Betty, the same question or related. Typically, we said, well, keep a low profile. Would you agree with that? A lot of times, Asians, by our parents, they don't stick out too much. Keep a low profile.
I think there's a lot of to be said about having 2 ears and 1 mouth for everybody, not Asian or not. And there's probably not enough of that in the world right now. So I would say, I'm not sure necessarily, I would not agree that we should keep a low profile. I would agree that we should be very thoughtful when we use our voice, and we can be effective in that. So I'm not sure about the low profile, but.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Lin Long, yeah, what makes you so successful?
It's an interesting question, Jamie. I think I haven't really thought about this. I feel like the important is, for me, I treat everybody, how did you say, doesn't matter anybody else there. I see everybody have a strength to contribute to something together. So I'm not really intimidated or afraid. Whoever actually, if somebody like some star, or even I'm starting from very beginning, do not speak good English, I still feel okay actually. Deal with like even exactly in the room. I feel like that's important, just be who you are, and also believe. It's not arrogant, but I believe people can teach you. You can learn from everyone. But I'm not really easy intimidated by anybody. So that's just and also strong work ethic. I always feel a persistency. And if something failed, it's okay. Just learn from that and move on. I mean, I think that is maybe is something I'm to be my best every day. And that's, I think, is in my life. That's who I am.
From the years I know of you, you are very candid, very open and authentic. That's you tell what you believe in, right? Yeah. Okay. Thank you. How about you?
Yeah.
Radha, what makes you so successful? Your company become $1 million companies.
The key to my success, I would say, is innovation, innovation and hard work. So I would definitely attribute the ability to come up with new ideas and to address this, to solve a particular problem, and to really implement it as a solution which everyone can use. And for that, obviously, a lot of hard work comes part of the territory. So in general, as entrepreneurs, you tend to spend a little bit more time every day in order to reach where you want to go.
The other question is also for all three of you. In our working, in the You Are Hired working, when we talk to the younger people, there are a lot of them are really looking for internship experience, how they expose to new field and really don't know much about it, a company. They like to have internship opportunity. What would you look for a good intern you like to hire? Both skills or personality or other traits? Okay, Betty, I'm going to start with you again.
What I would look for is, like anybody, when you're hiring for anything else, do they know anything about my company? Are they interested in the kind of work? Have they actually done some homework before they come and ask for an internship? I think a lot of time, I'm sure a lot of executives get approached about, hey, I'd love to learn more about your company. And it's kind of a nebulous ask. So I think, and somebody who's coming to ask for an internship has to have some general sense of what they want to learn. And they need to understand the company that they are asking that of. I think that's important.
So genuinely interested in what they're trying to do or to learn from the company, not just for a job.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Lin Long, how about you?
Yeah, I think it's similar. I think are they curious in general, and also sometimes we're asking why. And why actually give them, if they want looking for internship, are they here just for the experience? Are they so really like try to connect where is any deep connection in their why, and see the attitude and aptitude is so important is for young kids, because to see how much they're willing to very curious to learn from a lot of stuff, because just by by the ear, not by mouth, you can learn so much. So to see how young kids, they are willing to, sometimes, especially younger generation, they think they are smarter than anyone else, you know. So the important for, I mean, I think a humble, that's the actual plug in here. Is I think they are willing to learn and they're curious, they're willing to contribute is important.
Okay, Ron.
I would pretty much echo what Betty and Linglong put together as things to expect from the candidates, but I would emphasize even more the attitude part. So once that is right in place, I think everything else falls automatically and it's where it should be.
I think all three of you say the same thing. You know, you mentioned attitude. Betty said that the interest in the company. Now that's really attitude, right? So you really genuine, they're interested in the company, want to join in. Okay, you know, this is my personal experience. When I was interviewing with General Motors, my boss finally hired me, and he said, "You did very poorly in your presentation. You were so nervous. You didn't do well in the morning, but in the afternoon when we took you around, you asked tons of questions. That's how you get hired." Not because I made a wonderful presentation or anything. Interesting. Okay, so I think the youth watching this program have to be learning something. Okay, not just selling yourself, right? It's a mutual thing. Okay, yeah. Okay. The other question is related to this, but it's not hiring interns. It's within your company. I don't know. You have the so-called high pot or fast track system. In GM, we used to have that. But somebody would say, let's pay attention. This is a comer. This is a person. We want to see how fast he can move up. How did you identify this kind of person? Do you have that system to identify somebody you really want to groom, want to really advance for future leadership positions? Okay. Betty, I'm going to start with you again.
Yeah, I think there's for us, well, for me personally, probably more informal conversation. So if I'm in a meeting and there's somebody who does an amazing presentation that's related to an area that's would be of value to me as we're building our succession planning in our leadership structure, that might be a person I have set up a cup of coffee with, or find out a little bit more about them, because in the company, it is hard to know everybody and what their competency, skill sets, and their ultimate goals are. But also I think it fosters some positive culture within the company. If I reach out to that individual and say, wow, I was really impressed by your presentation. I'd love to learn more, not only about that subject matter, but learn more about you and what you're interested in doing in the company, because I was really impressed with you. So I'd say it's probably a little bit more informal, but I think it's effective. We really are, I'm constantly cultivating talent, constantly cultivating new leaders that we need to support.
Thank you. Linglong, do you have such systems in your company?
Yeah, actually, this is my job today. My job is actually not only, help developing the coaching, advising the most, all senior leaders. We have tried to build a succession bench and succession plan for all the different companies there. Who's going to be future CEO? Who's the future CEO? That's interesting when you're asking, because really, I think for successors, you talk about who can be for next one. Is really three things. Person had an aspiration, they wanted to. So even sometimes we see people have a skill, experience, have capability, but this person don't want to be the next one. So you cannot force them. So you really have to align that. Are they actually passionate for that? Then you have to figure out, hey, is this person have the skill set, the ability to drive the business? Is interesting. And like again, for ability, including the EQ part. Emotional intelligence, how to relate to people, bring people together. Because if you're talking about promotion, the successors, when you start to influence other people, you not only your technical skill, you need to have that ability to bring people together. Now, of course, when you try to promote anybody, you need to make a business sense. It have to be, business sense. Is the right time for the business? So you're looking for passion, the ability, and the business sense.
Thank you, Radha.
We do have a system in place which whereby each department constantly the team is rank ordered. from 1 to 10 or whatever the number of employees that are there. And they are evaluated based on a set of metrics. But metrics aside, one of the main qualities we look for, especially in leadership roles, is initiative taking. So on their own, is the individual taking that extra initiative beyond the call of duty, all right?
Yeah.
So, and the flexibility that they show towards the overall tasks assigned, you know? So these are important qualities that we feel is really essential as we groom them to be leaders. Yeah.
Okay. All three of you mentioned that both you have either very formal systems or informal systems, you know, just chance of encounters and you see somebody is really good. This question is for both of you personally and in your company. Do you have a mentor program? Have you been mentored in your career? Did that help you? You know, how did that influence you? And also, are you mentoring anybody? Betty?
So we do have a mentor program in the company that's, again, slightly more informal, but what I will say is we are provided coaching. So I think I've had in this company two professional coaches, which has been very helpful as I transition into coming from Beaumont to Henry Ford. Culture is different and coming in a new leadership role. And the feeding forward, you know, that the mentoring other people is an active part of what, you know, I do. So I have a significant group of individuals that I'm mentoring right now. Many of them are my direct reports because those of whom you have mutual shared interest in, but some of them are more up-and-comers who I think view myself. There are not a lot of female physician executives in healthcare, actually. There's a lot of female healthcare executives that usually have a nursing background, have a nursing background, but not a physician background. So, so I get a lot of physician females that are looking for mentorship.
That must take you a lot of time, but a very rewarding experience too, but very rewarding at the same time.
Yeah, I think trying to be specific about what they need help with and provide advice and guidance, but not to overcommit, especially if they don't report to you, not to overcommit to what you can offer them.
Thank you. Yeah. Lin Long, how about you?
And from the organization-wise, we do have a mentor program. Actually, the program, we have all different mentorship program. And the one I'm building today, I'm building for executive leaders, for 100 top leaders, another program. I actually assign somebody, you know, and is impactful. I mean, we just did a survey of 100 top leaders. They're all C-level leaders, all different for different names, but it's interesting. People think as executive leaders, usually they serve as a mentor for other people, not a mentee. But this first time actually assigned everybody have other person mentor them. They do feel impactful. For myself, in the past, I do not have a formal mentor, but I have my leaders, my peers. If I see somebody I feel really good in some area, actually I'm looking for the help from them. I'm asking advice. I feel like I do have informal mentoring a lot for a mentor for me myself. I do advise other people. I mean, two of them today is CEOs. I mean, I do think a mentoring is great for people. Sometimes just to point it out the blind spot. People sometimes didn't realize for other people, everybody knows this person's weakness, but for some reason the person itself, nobody tell them straight, but just help them. There's aha moment a lot. It's just interesting. I do encourage for young people, if they can, not have to be really formal mentorship, but looking advice to asking people provide feedback and you listen feedback.
Okay, thank you. Radha?
We do have an informal mentorship program, I have to admit. We do not have it in a very elaborate manner, but at each level, the leaders take it upon themselves to groom the immediate reportees that are under them, which includes myself. My immediate reportees, they get almost on a daily basis the advice to get them groomed to the next level. And in a reciprocal way, I also learn quite a bit from the others. So even from new joinees, if there are important takeaways from them, why not learn from them too? Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a two-way street.
I know that all successful leaders like you, the probably most precious thing to you is your time. You're always being demanded by everybody. So the question is, how do you manage your time, in particular in terms of both work and family? You know, with so much demand on your time, how do you manage that? Betty?
Well,
you must have a different clock. You know, it's a 48-hour clock or something.
Probably true for everybody on this call. You know, I think I've tried to be very, very deliberate about the tactics around time management. Things such as, you know, if I take on a new responsibility, I will eliminate a responsibility, such as leaving myself 2 to 3 hours of planning time a week, and really not, and staying true to that, because planning time and strategy time is so important in your week. I would also say I have a general mantra that I keep on a sticky note, you know, on my desk, that is the philosophy: if you can't say no, your yes means nothing. And spoken, I think, of that before. It's really critical to be able to say no to things. And historically, I've suffered from saying yes to too many things and not being very good at all the things that I'm doing. So I think that applies whether it's to work or it's to my family. Really trying to say no and really be thoughtful about it on what I commit to.
Thank you. Yeah. One thing I did notice about how you do this, it's interesting. In a lot of community things, you will say yes first to join in and to find out what's going on and contribute. Then you will bring on something younger people to give them a chance. That's really very, very appreciative. Yeah, we know that. Yeah, that's a way. Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Yep.
Lin Long, how about you? Personal time.
Yes, I'm
How do you manage your time?
Yeah, I think I answer the question differently, because I really don't know. When people ask me how to balance your work and the family, I feel like I don't want to even do that, because when I do that, I will put a family and the work as enemy, which is not. I love what I'm do. I love my family. So I like using today's example. I come here for family, parents weekend, all the kids, parents coming here, you know, I go there, everybody meet, listen to class. I choose into this panel. This panel is not my work, it's not my family, it's a community. I think every one of us is have a priority choosing you. What is a priority important for you, right? So I think is life, is called a life, it's not a work balance, it's life balance. How do you balance your life in the priority in the way? Sometimes I will choosing community over my family, my work. Sometimes we're choosing work over my family. Sometimes we're choosing family over. I think it's all together. I never treat, I love what I'm doing actually. Even, you know, I love work. I love the impact the community. I love my family. So that's the answer you. So I think it's a focus. How to be focused. I don't give them, I'm here. I'm 100% for all of you, all of the audience here. But when with my kids, I give them a hug, I'm with them. When to work, we're 100% all in. So that's my answer.
How about you, Radha? Time is money, right?
Right, time is money.
For you.
But I think Ling Long put it very well. It's all about prioritizing. Okay. Personally for me, I have a son who's a special needs son, 24 years old, and he cannot walk or talk, but he's a blessing of a great extent, and finding the time to be with him and take care of him is something you make it part of your everyday life. All right. And on a lighter note, I never miss my jog every day. All right. So it's all about you finding the time for yourself as well as your family. It never has to compromise. It need not have to compromise with your professional life.
Thank you for sharing your personal story, your son's story with us. That's very encouraging that it didn't impede you on your time and your ambitions to get the business growing. Okay, that's very admirable. Okay, yeah.
Thank you. It adds another dimension to you, basically.
Yeah. Okay. I noticed that all three of you, your company, I didn't even really know Henry Ford is a global company. Seems to be have either branch offices or working with others globally. You care to comment anything about the globalization and also the future needs for talents and people?
Yeah, it's a two-way street, well, so from a talent perspective, we have 600 nurses from the Philippines that'll be starting first quarter next year. So clearly the recruitment of talent's been critical from a nursing perspective.
Wow.
But our Innovation Institute, we have a Global Health Institute that works closely. We are the management company for a few hospitals, as I mentioned, in India. We have a hospital in Abu Dhabi. And so so that work is ongoing. But really, we're also trying to find innovation globally and really take some of that innovation back into our company and say, what are some lower cost solutions that have been applied around the world towards many of the problems that we're trying to solve in our local communities. So we actually have an Advancing Health Equity Summit that's coming up next week. And part of that is to share some of the work that we've done internationally, but a lot of it's to really engage with other partners within the ecosystem as well as national companies around.
Wow. I didn't know that it's such a major initiative. We didn't review that at the quality board meeting anyway. So wow, it's a big one. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, Lin Long, how about you?
So our company, you're talking about our company, the future needs.
Yeah, right? your company is that become more and more global.
Our company today is a major in the USA and Canada. Okay, today, but in the future and for future potential, but we are, we are thinking more how to take care of our client, not like specifically try to global developing, but more how to give a client more like the innovative products for them, much easier, much combine. Give example, your credit card, your mortgage, your car loan, everything together.
Okay.
Versus think about it this way. Think about how to more central, more client-centered, the business. Yeah, how to make a client more convenient, more financial centered, everything by your business.
Thank you. Radha?
Yeah, being in engineering business, your products and services find marketplace all over the world. So today we have customers, as I'd mentioned, in India, China, Japan, Korea, and in Europe besides US. So those are all great opportunities to reach out to other markets. That's on the selling of your products and services side. But as Betty mentioned, the cost of doing things, to reduce the cost of doing business, looking at centers, low-cost centers all over the globe to support your business is also a very important aspect of going global. Yeah. Okay. So you have to look for that kind of a talent globally in order to reduce your business cost.
Well, I'm going to move to a different segment of this panel discussion. This segment is all yours. I pretty much give you a few minutes to comment on whatever you like to comment, how to become leaders and what kind of youth should be, the youth should pay attention to. It's your freewheeling comments. So a chance to give a 3 minutes talk. Who wants to go first? Betty, you are ready.
This one thing has come across my office recently where we have an administrative fellow that works with us, and oftentimes she's in her 20s, late 20s. She's coming in and saying, what decision should I make? What decision should I make? And asking for advice on projects. And my usual advice to most people is it's very difficult to make a wrong decision. There are really very few wrong decisions. You're never going to also have all the information that you need when you need to make a decision. So I think many of us know we wouldn't be successful on this call if we didn't go with about a 70%, 80% likelihood of success and some gut instinct and a lot of hard work. So I think there's a tendency now for people to think that there is the right path or the right solution or the right decision. And most successful people that I know have been very comfortable with being uncomfortable and very uncomfortable with the uncertainty of not having all of the information. So my biggest piece of advice was don't be paralyzed by not having all the information. Just make a decision. And and then work that decision until it turns out might not have been the right decision, but make a decision.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with making a decision.
Thank you so much. That's really definitely a trend now. You know, we used to be Elon Musk that keeps saying that just make a decision, go forward. I don't want to be like a GM, Ford, or the big threes. Just keep learning, keep moving forward. Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. Okay. I have a boss used to tell me this story. He said, Jamie, if the decision is easy, you would have made it. If it's tough, that means it's 50-50. So it doesn't matter. You can go either way.
Yes.
Just pick one. Okay. Yeah. Okay. How about you, Leon? Any story, any comments you want to share with people?
Yeah, I saw the one question from the chat say question for the panel say, oh, if you are very accomplished and successful, knowing what you know now, is there anything you would do differently? I think the question, on the chat here, I'm going to answer that question.
Okay.
I think we are touched so much, talking about the work ethic, strong work ethic. I think that Rhonda also talked about initiative, which is for all young kids, right? You need to take ownership, take initiative. I think strong work ethic, we already all mentioned that. One thing I think, if you look back, if I think about do differently, I think just give yourself a little bit grace and give others a little bit more grace as well. I think sometimes, life don't let it be too intensive, tense. Just give a little bit grace, give a chance to even just Betty and Jim, you mentioned fail. So what? You learn from that. If you learn from your fail, if you made a wrong decision, you're gonna still learning from that. Actually, it's great. I think not many people remember story or project they did it so beautifully, so accomplished, so successful. There's no barrier, or there's no like a hardest work inside. If that is so easy, people don't even remember. People remember something really hard. People remember they're working together. They are so possibly unbearable. Then they finished, they accomplished. So that's my advice for if things go not in the right direction, let's help each other. Let's give each other grace, and then towards more, not just in the beautiful time, but in the time, the hardship time.
Thank you for the comments. Okay, Radha?
I believe, especially in the STEM area, science technology area, we are at a point of inflection, I believe now. There are a lot of exciting things happening in multiple industries, automotive, as you know, electric vehicles, etc. And in the aerospace sector, you have the personal air mobility, like vertical takeoff landing aircraft for individual use, and hypersonic flights, etc. And artificial intelligence, needless to say, find its application everywhere, including biosciences and so on. So it is, if you map it back to the past 30 years or so, it appears that there is a true point of inflection right now for great opportunities ahead. All right. And of course, challenges are also there. So for all the younger generation who are coming into the workforce, this is a great time to be in, and which means they can really tap into these opportunities. All right. So they can be very innovative and take full advantage of the needs and opportunities.
Okay.
And while they do that, along with that, if they also giving back to the community as part of the whole experience, that will be even better. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. You all mentioned about the future and the global opportunities and the skills. My last question to you is, if you have advice for people who are going into college, in terms of what kind of school they should study, what kind of things they should study. I've heard that different universities even have programs which have no particular degrees, free or electives, whatever. So if you have advice to somebody getting into college, what would be your advice for them to study useful things for the future? Okay. maybe you're providing that to your own kids now. Betty, you have a comment on that?
Yeah, it is very proximal. My son is applying to colleges right now. I think what I would advise is look for programs where there's intra-departmental thinking. So when I went to business school at Ross in 2011, I did so because as a physician, you think a very particular way. And I went to Ross because I was meeting leaders from Microsoft and Rockwell and Deere and many different types of companies. And in healthcare, we certainly have not solved our problems yet. And we definitely have to look to other industries to help us solve our problems. So I would say look for programs where you have that collaboration with other disciplines so that we can really innovate.
Okay, thank you. Lin Long?
For me, I like to young generation, including my kids, I always tell them, looking for what's really passion for them. I try to ask them not looking for something like make more money. I think in today's, we were immigrants here, we still survive, we still okay. I think the young generation totally should be okay for whatever they do. But I think be careful, they are too young, they are think about it just for job security. I really ask them, what's you make you feel like you had a fire in your heart, you really want to do something. There will be great opportunity to move forward to go. You never know, because I think if you do what you have passion, that would be a wonderful thing. I think it's so important. Sometimes at parents today, they always try to find what's the most security, make most money. That's not, I feel like I really want to reinforce, I think, passion, real true passion from your heart. That's actually pretty important for young generation.
Okay, thank you. Radha?
I would advise to do any kind of program which was more hands-on. In addition to learning the principles theoretically, if they could do things experimentally and hands-on. And for that, as parents, it'll be good to expose the kids by taking them to, for example, a community college. I was at Schoolcraft College some time back. I was amazed to see the amount of hands-on knowledge one can get by programming a robot or doing a PLC programming, etc. That naturally widens the kids' exposure to what is available out there. Then based on that, naturally they may show some interest in one particular area, and then they can be channeled towards that. So more hands-on is something I would suggest that we expose them to.
Thank you so much. I'm going to try to wrap this up. I think there's some questions to follow. From what I've heard, thank you so much for your comments, for your answers. What I heard, all three of you really have very deep professional skills. Maybe it's a different area, but all of you have very deep professional skills. And you also have very broad interest, not afraid to take risk, to switch companies, to work at different functions, and also to start your own company. And also the one I admire the most, all three of you have tremendous passion. You're passionate about your job, you're passionate about your family, you're passionate about helping the youth. That's really what I learned is how you become a leader. All three of you have shown me that the special, how you become successful. I really appreciate that. Okay. There's just one question didn't ask to say, from what you know, all three of them, you are the leaders. Looking back, what one thing you would do differently to become even more successful? That's a question to all three panelists. Now looking back at your career, what one thing you would say, I would have, if I can start over, I would do it differently? Is
there anything you will do differently? I think important is, my answer is, hey, give yourself, give others grace, because people do not really remember what you have done, but they remember how you treated them. Okay. After many, after you go back, how you care about people, doesn't matter your position, your high position, or even your intro level position. I think small thing matters. How to give each other grace is actually important. So I'm just buying a little bit minutes for the Betty.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So how?
Thanks, Ling Long. I think for me, I love that what you just said, Ling Long. It's so true. Sometimes when you're very focused on your goals and focused on what it is that you need to do, you inadvertently run over people, not intentionally, but inadvertently. So I think being thoughtful about how you impact other people on your journey is really important. And there have definitely been times where I could have been more thoughtful about my impact. So that's what I'll say.
Thank you so much. Okay. Any comments from you, Roddy?
If I were to rewind back, I would say probably I should have think even bigger, look at even bigger opportunities.
Okay, thank you so much. I think that's the most of the questions in the chat has been answered by you. Lisa, any parting comments? I do want to thank all the panelists. It's truly my honor and pleasure to be able to moderate and talk with you. Thank you so much. Okay, Lisa, back to you.
Thank you, Dr. Su. We hope everyone enjoyed this episode. Learn from the best. Thanks to our amazing panelists for taking their time to be with us today. For our audience, thank you for watching. We would love to get your feedback and hear your suggestions. Before you go, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Hope to see you in our next episode.